What's up, everyone? Act 3 of Vanquish, God Hard, LFE, Heavy Machine Gun, yada yada. You can read the title of the video. So I'm gonna fast forward through this part right here because it's kind of slow, and I don't really do a whole lot that's interesting. In fact, I was kind of mad looking at this footage again. I was using the disk launcher like an idiot, and I missed a lot of opportunities to do stuff like decap the enemies, which I did a couple of, but not a whole lot. In here, I'll decap this one Romanov, and he'll shoot his laser attack like out in the middle of nowhere. So that's kind of cool. Like you can decap them and leave them alone; they'll basically kill themselves. But for the most part, it was a lot of me kind of turtling and just hitting things with the machine gun. So I decided to just fast forward through it. There's really not a whole lot to see here, and a lot of the more interesting parts of this act end up coming up later anyway, especially when the new enemy types get introduced, which one of them is coming up very shortly here, the drill Romanovs. So before they appear, I was going to talk about them for a little bit. So the drill Romanovs are definitely the hardest of all the Romanovs. They have drills, obviously, for weapons. They can drill underground, and while they're drilling underground, they have some iframes, so you really can't knock them out of it. They also will shoot their drills if you get rid of their legs. So that's a huge thing to take note of, because it's pretty hard to dodge if you're not aware of it, and it does a lot of damage. So, but right now I'm just killing these blue RIs. This part's, I always like turtle this part and it ends up taking forever, so I just fast forwarded through it. It wasn't really anything worth seeing. These transport ships, I always like to throw a grenade like this and just do the slow-mo shot on them. You know, if there's one thing, I think I talked about this in the last video, I really wish the sniper rifle in this game was better. Even when I'm not doing a run like this, if I'm just doing a normal run, I never pick it up. It's just not worth using, I don't think. Especially with the anti-armor pistol included in this version. So if you played it last gen without the DLC, it was a DLC weapon. But now that we all have it, there's no point in using the sniper rifle. But anyway, here's the Romanovs. So I'm basically going to do what I did to the other Romanovs in my last video. Use the LFE to group them together, knock them back into a wall. I'm basically going to cycle through LFE, grenades, EMPs, melees, and a lot of hip fire, heavy machine gun fire. The reason I do that is just because you can move around at full speed with it. Well, not full speed, but you can move around quickly with it, and you don't have to take the time to aim, so it's just easy to kind of swap in and out of it, especially if you do the reload canceling, which I'm not doing here. But if you do reload canceling, swapped out with LFE, swapped out with, you throw a grenade and then into melee. It's a pretty good combination. Right there was the drill shot that he does when he doesn't have any legs. So luckily I dodged it, because it hurts really bad. Also, the drill Romanov grab you and kill you in one hit, I think. It seems like every time they grab me, they kill me in one hit. I don't know if it's a grab that's initiated when your health is in a certain threshold, or it just is a one-hit kill, but there's that too. Here's the next part. I'm just going to fast forward, because basically all I do here is I sit here, wait for the rocket Romanov to shoot the big rocket, and then I just blow it up while it's still near them so that they die. So nothing really too interesting there. But anyway, the sniper rifle, like I said, if you have the anti-armor pistol, there's no point in using it. You only get 10 shots. The damage is not that great. And aside from that, it just doesn't really do much. Like, in terms of application, there's not a whole lot going on with it. It's kind of like what I talked about in my Evil Within videos. Like, it's still fine, the sniper rifle is, but it's nowhere near the other weapons. But here's 3... Wait, what chapter is this? 3-3? 3-2. Duh, it just said that. 3-2, this is like the notorious part of the game, aside from the final boss. So here, the LFE shoots through the walls, so I just like rush this first little thing here, and I just keep firing the LFE into the wall, hoping I hit all these guys, and I think I got them all except one. So I threw a grenade, LFE, I hit the grenade and hit the enemies, so I took care of most of them. And then I always come to this little cover right here, and I basically just wait it out. As soon as my health gets back up, I'm going to pop out and take some shots, and and then I'm going to wait for the tank to spawn. The Goldens on this difficulty are insane because they have like impeccable aiming, and they take you to critical, I think, on pretty much every shot. So you have to just get in and out with your shots. You can use cigarettes, obviously, but as you can see, I don't have any because I died here multiple times, so I'm out of cigarettes, and you don't get them replenished when you die. It's only when you get to the next chapter. So I basically had to just wait, just take good shots. And the tank always rushes to the center here where that statue is. So I always wait for all the Goldens to be dead, which they are. I got them all fairly easily because I was just shooting the LFE. And since it has good distance, and it still does some damage, even though the damage decays over distance, it was still enough to kill a few of them. So now I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to pick off the turrets. On lower difficulties, I don't think it's really necessary to pick off the turrets, but on God Hard you have to. They just kill you so quickly. And especially here, the cover is spaced out kind of weird. Like I said, I don't have cigarettes. My ammo's kind of low on the LFE. I kind of have to just be careful. So I'm going to take off all the turrets on both sides, especially the ones on the back. Definitely want to get the ones on the back so they don't shoot you while you're, hitting the weak point on the tank. And I think there's EMPs up here usually. So I'm basically just turtling and hiding until I can get the turrets off. I got the back turrets off, so now it's time to just find some ammo and just destroy the tank. And it's crazy how many times I would get to this point in this fight with just the tank left, and I'd still die. So when you throw an EMP at the tank, it does disable it momentarily like it does with every enemy. But when it comes out of that stun, it just like immediately fires a missile at you from the main cannon, and it always hits me, and I'm never ready for it. So even if you're pelting this thing with EMPs, you have to be careful because it's gonna immediately fire at you as soon as it's done being stunned. So right there, that was definitely the cleanest I got that whole attempt. So it's not bad, although I had 45 deaths, so that was pretty awful overall. Although the run with the lock-on lasers that I was talking about, lock-on lasers and shotgun and disc launcher, I beat it in like 4 or 5 tries because the lasers actually worked pretty well, and the disc launcher, once I realized to just go for the head, just to decap enemies, it was a lot easier. And the lock-on laser is nice for the tank as well. You can just basically just fire it blindly and get rid of the turrets on the sides. I'd be really curious to do a DLC weapons only run, so that would be the boost machine gun, the anti-armor pistol, and the laser cannon. The only problem is those weapons, like the anti-armor pistol and the boost machine gun, they don't appear very often, so you really wouldn't find much ammo. So I don't really know what I'd do. Basically, I'd have to just fire the laser cannon until I found ammo, which I was doing the laser cannon only run and recording it initially, but basically I got to, I think, 3-4, where you have to destroy the buzzard in the transport thing, and literally I just couldn't deal enough damage. I tried everything. I got to a point where I dodged every single one of its attacks, which means I got maximum DPS because I didn't have to recover from anything, and I still couldn't do enough damage to take it down before it destroyed the carrier. So I basically failed the run, like I couldn't do it. Not to mention I was just getting bored with that run in general. So, but if I had the other 2 weapons and then I kind of used that as my main weapon but busted those out in dire needs like that fight, I'd be more interested to do that. So maybe I'll do that at some point. But this is the bridge, so you just have to get across here before it falls over. And this game's not bluffing. This will fall if you stay on here too long. And actually, it's funny. I think it's either Elena or Burns. They say something to you when the bridge is about to fall, and it's like right after they say it, the bridge collapses. Like you don't even have time to move. So yeah, at that part you just have to keep moving. When you get to the end here, this fence in the back is gonna fall over. I always just throw a cigarette or 2, throw a couple EMPs to buy some time, and then I just boost through it because there's kind of a lot to deal with right there. So unless I'm doing a run where I want to kill everything, I just blow through it with cigarettes. So here's another part that I'm just fast forwarding. So in case you haven't played this game and you're watching this for whatever reason, this part you basically have to use the sniper rifle to shoot these searchlights out. And it's about the most, this is probably the most like scripted, linear, like uneventful part of the whole game. So I just figured I'd just fast forward it. I tried shooting at the spotlights with other guns. And I don't really think it works. I don't really think you can do this part without the sniper rifle because missiles just get fired at the monorail and then you just lose. So yeah, if you're doing a run where you're using only weapons or one weapon only, you have to use the sniper rifle. So it doesn't really count as breaking the rule because as far as I know, you have to use it there. Again, there could be a Vanquish master out there who could prove me wrong, but yeah, as far as I know. So right there, got a lot of enemies with one grenade. Grenades, explosives are amazing, and then I got a decap right there with the disc launcher. I still wish that I knew how to use the disc launcher properly when I did this run, but that's okay because I still do a couple things, especially with the unknown is coming up, and I think that I use it on that. The disc launcher is really good against the unknown. I'm pretty sure it just breaks them apart, which the unknown is such a great enemy. I think the unknown is probably one of the best enemies in any game I've ever played. Unknown is like super creative. There's a lot to do against it. It has a lot of unique elements to it, like just within this game, let alone in the genre itself. So I kind of wish there was more of them. Like if I had to pick just like a couple mechanical design things in this game that I would genuinely fix, I would buff the sniper rifle. I don't know how I'd do it. Maybe give it some more piercing properties or something like that. I don't know what else I would do with it. I'm just kind of winging this. I would also use enemies like the unknown more. So the unknown, the crystal viper, I would put them more in the game, especially the crystal viper. I believe in the campaign you only fight them. I only fight 2 of them, maybe 3, but I think you only fight 2. The unknown, I believe you also only fight 3, and I think that's a complete shame for how good of an enemy it is. The Bias could also get some more love. I think again maybe a handful of them in the game, but using them more often would be nice. This game's kind of got that like same enemy placement composition thing going on as Resident Evil 4 and The Evil Within, where like the red RIs are kind of like the Ganados and the Haunted of this game, and the game uses them a lot. The only problem is, as good of an enemy as the red RIs are, I don't think they're as interesting as those other enemies, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think the red RIs are on the same level as the Ganados or the Haunted. Therefore, I don't think it's really justified that they're so prevalent in this game. Like, I think this game would benefit more from having the different enemies spaced out more evenly, whereas I don't think that the higher tier enemies in those other games being so rare was a detriment because the base enemy is so good. It's a really convoluted way of saying what I was trying to say right there, but I think you know what I meant. So here's that part that I failed on my laser cannon run, where I just couldn't deal enough damage to it. But here, luckily, the heavy machine gun has pretty good DPS, so there's really not an issue here. That laser, most of these attacks, if you just are taking cover in the, like at the cover that's nearest to the buzzard, you're pretty much going to be okay during this part. There's really not much to it past that. I've tried several times to use grenades against this guy, like throw it and then shoot it midair, and it just, I can never get it to work. I don't know why. Or I've got it to work a couple times and it does so little damage it's not even worth doing. And the EMPs don't work on it, which I find really strange. Like the EMPs work on everything in the game, plus like they're a very universal kind of thing. Like right there I threw it and he just basically just tanked through it. I find that very strange, especially because I mean this enemy's also a robot, so I don't know why it's not working. I think that kind of breaks the consistency of the game and the rolls of the weapons a little bit to just have it not randomly work on this guy. But oh well. I mean there's enough ammo and weapons on here for you to kill him. Like, the game wants you to use the sniper rifle, since there's sniper rifles laying around in here, and it's fine. I think as lackluster as the sniper rifle is in this game, it's still good enough to kill it, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're on 3-5 now, and there's another tank, which I'm glad that the tank is actually used so much in this game, because I think the tank is also a really interesting enemy, which is a weird thing for me to say, because most of the time when you fight vehicles or tanks or whatever in games, it's usually about as boring can possibly get. I think the tank in this game is actually really cool. The different turrets on it, the way it like charges you, stuff like that. Obviously, you can use the EMP, and right there you see it like destroys cover like crazy fast. So that's another interesting aspect about it. I kind of like in this how it seems like every cover, again, I'm not 100% sure, but every kind of cover can be destroyed, or most kinds of cover, and it kind of varies depending on the enemy and the weapon you're using, what can destroy it. Like, if you're using a rocket launcher, you can destroy your own cover, or if you're using the laser cannon, you can destroy your own cover. I think that's kind of cool. They took the laser cannon, which was a weapon that has infinite ammo, technically. It has like short bursts of infinite ammo. You can use it to destroy cover, but because you can turtle with it so well, you can also destroy your own cover with it, like accidentally, which I've done a lot. So I think that was actually a really cool touch. But it's also a cool touch that this enemy not only can blow cover apart, but also it charges you, so it can just literally just destroy your cover. It can just tear through it. So that's kind of nice. I think that destroying covers, that's something that really suits this game. I think other cover shooters have it, like some cover can be destroyed in Uncharted, like there's like wooden fences and stuff that can be destroyed, but in a game that's all about mobility and speed, I would say that it makes more sense in this game. Not that it doesn't belong in other games, but I think it fits the theme of this game better. Also, enemies are more mobile in this game than they tend to be in other cover shooters, as well as they do things like the Red RIs have the suicide attacks, where they get tremendous speed and just like home in on you until they die. So there's a lot of things in this game that kind of force you to either use cover smartly, or to change your cover, or to quickly kill the enemies, stuff like that. Because nobody likes a lame cover shooter, right? Like in my last video, I was talking about Gears of War and how I was playing them recently. And, you know, if you like those games, great. I mean, whatever. You like what you like. But I personally think they're probably the most boring things ever made. And I was playing on hard. Granted, I wasn't playing on insane or whatever the difficulty's called, whatever. But at the same time, I can't fathom how I'm supposed to play a game where enemies literally have no reactions to anything I'm doing. It's just absurd to me. And enemies have so much health. I don't consider it enjoyable to kill an enemy with 45 bullets. That's just insane. That's asinine. I think if I made a list of all the things that I personally don't like in games, like not things that I think objectively are bad, things that subjectively I don't like, I think enemies taking too long to kill is probably the number one thing. Like, obviously there's straight up bad combat design, there's bad level design, there's open world, which I think open world at this point is just objectively bad design. There's all kinds of things that I find objectively bad, but I think damage sponge enemies are subjectively my least favorite thing ever in games. I can't stand it in any game. It's one of many reasons that I don't really play JRPGs anymore, because I've always felt like whenever I get to a boss in a JRPG, if I'm not over leveled or something, or I know some cheese strat to kill the boss, it's going to take me forever to kill them, and I just don't have... It's not that I don't have the time or the patience, which my time is dwindling to play games. I can't play games like I used to, but it's not just that. It's like my interest in the fight dwindles so quickly when I realize that my skill or my knowledge isn't being tested. It's basically just my patience and seeing how long I can withstand boredom. Like, I don't want to play a game like that. I don't know what any of that had to do with anything, but anyway, back on track here. Killing this thing, and then can get inside the Creon. So this, I really like this next part because the game kind of like alludes to this thing with fire, where fire overheats you, like with the Romanovs who have the flamethrowers. If you're too close to them, they'll overheat you, which I think is really cool. And then you're kind of like limited and handicapped until you can recover. This whole part kind of plays with that idea. And it's one of those things where I think the game could have fell into a trap design-wise, where they were like, well, Sam is weak to fire, so let's make the whole game about that. And they didn't do that. They kept it as like this little side thing to kind of like, show up every once in a while, like with certain enemies and with certain parts, like right here. But they didn't make a whole game this big gimmick around it. This is like a problem I have. See, here I am just ranting again, so talking about this game, but the reason I'm ranting about this is because I want to explain how good this game is, because it doesn't do these things that other games do. So, I'm going to use this game actually as an example. So, Binary Domain, I don't know if anyone knows that game, but it's a game kind of in the same style. And I remember the game coming out and everyone hyping it up because, you could blow robots apart, and that's basically the whole hype around it. So you could blow robots apart. And I bought the game, and I've played it several times over the years, and I do like the game, but it's not even close in terms of quality to this game. Now, the difference is that this game also has that. You can take limbs off of enemies, and you can shoot their legs off. You can decapitate them in certain scenarios in certain ways. But the game is not built around that specifically. The game has these ideas. It has that the delimbing idea, the blowing apart the robots idea. It has the fire weakness idea, but it doesn't make the whole game about that. And I think that's something that especially a lot of indie games really, really struggle with, is the developers think to themselves, hey, I have this really cool idea, so I'm going to base my entire game around it. You can't do that. You can't make an entire game around one idea. That quickly becomes stale. You need to have good fundamentals and a good foundation in your game. If this game didn't have the strong weapons it had, if it didn't have the great enemies, if it didn't have the good level design, would delimbing the enemies or have Sam overheating from fire, would that really matter? Probably not, because they would have nothing to stand on. So that's kind of my take on this whole thing with, like, whenever I read something about a game has this new idea, and then it's like, well, is the game just going to basically bank on that for the whole experience? Because that's not how this can work. There's some games that can kind of make that happen, like Shadow of the Colossus has pretty much one big idea that he uses all the time, but it isn't one very specific thing. It's one kind of general idea that it builds on over the course of the game and is rooted, I think, in pretty good fundamental things. Granted, I'm not saying that game is perfect, and in most cases I would say if you're the type of person to, heavily prefer gameplay over everything, I don't even know if I would really recommend that game to you at all. But point is that a lot of games don't do it right. Some games can. I think this game did a great job of not going overboard with things like that and just having like a laser focus, and it paid off, and it was for the best. Okay, enough ranting. Back to Vanquish. The unknown is coming up. In fact, he's right there. He's giving us a little preview of what's to come. I don't think there's any point in shooting him right here. I don't think it does anything. I don't think it takes down his health for the fight or anything like that, so I just ignore him. So the unknown has a lot of elements to him and a lot going on, so I was just going to explain it right now. So he's very mobile. He can climb on the walls and the ceiling and all that stuff. He has an instant kill grab. He is affected by EMPs and grenades. The LFE basically blows him apart. He's basically like one big mass. And then if you use the LFE, he'll scatter. He has a weak point. It's a little red ball with legs, and he runs away. So you can, just like the Romanov, you can kind of keep him in a locked state through EMPs, melees, LFE, grenades, disc launcher melee, all kinds of stuff. You can cycle through these things. You can just completely just lock him in and just annihilate him. And I don't know if I'd say I annihilate him coming out, but I do kill him pretty quickly. He is counted as a boss. He does have a health bar and everything. But he's actually, I'd say he's pretty easy for a boss, but he's such an interesting enemy. Like, and there's even things like he does this attack where from a high point of view he'll like have this spinning laser attack. If you throw the grenade at it, the laser will pretty much always catch the grenade, and he'll damage himself with your grenade. Like right there. I didn't actually initiate that explosion, it just blew up because he hit it. So right there, he's destroyed. So I tried to hit him with the disc launcher melee, but I missed. So now he's running away. So if I can hit him with the LFE or a melee, I can slow him down. So melee, I did damage to him. I hurt him, I stunned him a little bit. So now he's scrambling and running away again. And this is pretty much this whole thing, just trying to get be super on the offensive and just completely suppress him. So right there, the LFE just annihilates him, even when he's armored. Right there, I just did 2 shots at the end that killed him. So there's kind of a lot going on right there, but essentially, all the things that I have in my arsenal right now work really well against him. If you can melee him with the disc launcher too, same thing. He'll pretty much just scatter, and you'll do damage to him, and you'll expose him. And then you can melee his weakness or his weak point too. Right here, we got some blue RIs spawning in. Pretty easy to just throw a grenade at their spawn and then shoot it. Or you can throw an EMP, stun them all when they come in, do like a point blank burst of LFE shots, whatever you want to do. If you have the shotgun, obviously same thing. You can stun them and then just shotgun them. Or you can melee them, whatever floats your boat there. Here's this part's kind of cool. You just have to avoid this laser thing. And this part's coming up is awesome because you actually get to do some ring outs. So you can hit these Romanovs with the LFE and just knock them off the edge. There's a few parts up here where you can do that. Again, that gives another use to the LFE on top of the knockback and the grouping and the high damage and the destroying of grenades and enemy attacks. You can also ring enemies out. Also, you want to be careful coming out of that hallway because if you do that all in one go, you're going to be super low on meter. So if you want to use an EMP or a grenade drop to buy yourself some time or for a safe way to get out of there. And right there was the rocket launcher, but I can't pick it up. It makes me sad. The rocket launcher is actually not as crazy overpowered as you might think because the weapons in this game are so well balanced. I don't think the rocket launcher is really overpowered or broken or anything like that. It's really good and it has a ton of use, but it doesn't completely overshadow everything. There are fights in the game where a rocket launcher drops, and sometimes I don't even pick it up because some of the other things I have are just better for that fight. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be that there's one weapon that's so amazing that I always take it and I just disregard everything else in the game. Like, there are people who think that it's not a game's job to have any kind of balance, and I just don't understand that. Yeah, no game is going to have perfect balance, obviously, but at the same time, everything in the game should have its purpose and the player should want to use everything in the game. It's like the game is giving us all these tools and we should want to use them. I shouldn't want to avoid half of them because one thing is so good. That's not how this works. And at the same time, it shouldn't be that I have to not use that one for the other ones to even be remotely worth using. They should all be worth using all the time. They should just vary depending on the situation and the application. In my opinion, of course. I mean, what do I know? Here is going to be where I'm going to bring out that Romanov. He's going to be at the back. He's going to be conveniently placed next to the edge there. So I'm just going to shoot the LFE at him and blow him off. Did a grenade throw. I think I only got one enemy with it, but it's okay because I hurt another one. But I'm just going to rush this Romanov LFE. He's going to fly way back. So you can see the knockback is insane because he was pretty far away from the edge there, but I still managed to knock him off. And another one's going to spawn in, and I'm going to do the same thing. And right here again, had I just known how to use the disc launcher, I could have just hit him in the eyes. Probably would have gotten a decap, and he would have been dead. He would have been harmless, but, you know, I went to danger because I didn't know what I was doing. And right there, same thing to that Romanov. You just blindly hip fire the LFE into these mobs, and you don't even have to worry about them. So now we're going to be coming up on 3-7, which is the last part of this act. There's going to be more spots to ring out enemies, Romanovs. I think there's one more unknown, and then the last little QTE is really cool. And here, you can throw these grenades down here to just kill these enemies before they even come up or take off in the transport ships. So I always like stuff like that in games where you can like get a jump on groups of enemies before they get to do something like later on. I think probably my favorite example of this ever in any game is in Metal Gear Solid 3, when you're right before you fight Ocelot and there's that helicopter. You can blow up the helicopter, and then way later in the game when you're at the mountains, the helicopter won't show up. That's just awesome. This is obviously on a little different scale because these transport ships come up immediately, but same idea, and I just love stuff like that. And here, there's going to be Romanovs that come out of these like doors on the side. You don't have to fight them. You can just go up onto the next area. And I'm getting my ass handed to me right here for some reason. I don't really know what I'm doing. Again, LFE shoots through walls. Got to take advantage of that. That's such a weird thing to have over the other guns, especially in a gun that already has so much going for it. But it's crazy. When you do a run like this, you realize how useful that is. Especially when you don't have meter or you're low on health and you just need to get an enemy off of you. You just shoot them through the wall and just don't even think about them. It's great. Same thing, just fire him off the edge. And see, it leaves him with so little health, it's kind of like, it's almost like unsatisfactory. You want them to just die in one shot, but it only happens if you're really close. It's because enemies get a 30% health boost on God Hard. If I was playing on hard, that would have killed it in one hit, but since it's God Hard, it's just barely enough to not kill them, which kind of sucks, but it still knocks them over. So all I do is switch to the assault rifle or the heavy machine gun or whatever, and just shoot them with a couple bullets and they're dead. Also, I'm pretty sure that animation of Sam right there, where he's like trying to hold his balance, I'm pretty sure that exact animation is in The Evil Within when Sebastian is when the city's falling over and he's like trying to hold his balance. Pretty sure that's the exact same animation. It's kind of funny. So there's a golden right here, and I don't even mess around with them. When I see them, just straight to LFE or straight to EMP or just use my meter to melee them because they're so annoying and they do so much damage. They do more damage than pretty much any high tier enemy that doesn't have a one-hit kill. So they do more damage than, I'm pretty sure they do more damage than the Bias, which is crazy because they're almost a boss, I would say, yet they do more damage than them. Which I get it. You need to have those like pest-like enemies in games where they don't have a lot of health, but they do a lot of damage. But that's the thing is the Goldens, they actually have pretty decent health for how insanely powerful they are and how accurate they are. So I want to say I wish they were less annoying, but that would mean the game would have to be easier, and I don't want the game to be easier. So I guess we'll just have to take them being annoying. I do wish that the blue RIs were a little bit more prevalent because there's so many red RIs in the game, and it really does feel like there's more Goldens than there are blues, which the Goldens are harder, so I would think that they'd be less prevalent than the blues, but they're not. I don't know. Anyway, here's a bunch of RIs dancing to a sphere or whatever. No, those aren't spheres. That's a different enemy. Turned into a boombox, basically, which is pretty awesome. And then another unknown fight. I think I'm pretty much just going to annihilate him again. If you actually pick up that rocket launcher and use it against the unknown, it's like he doesn't even have a chance against you. This is the kind of enemy in games I love. They have a lot of details, they have a lot going on. Yes, they have a lot of health, but you have a ton of ways to just make quick work of them, which is pretty much what you do here. EMP, melee, LFE. He's still stunned after the melee and the LFE. So I threw another one. There's his weak point. I just keep firing LFE shots, and the melee does a ton of damage against him like that. So, and then after the melee, again, when you do the backflip, even though you're technically overheating, you can still get a few slow-mo shots off. And here I am, just LFE, melee, he's dead. I mean, again, technically a boss, but you can kill him so quickly if you know what you're doing. If you let him get back up and then crawl around and you don't have a weapon that's gonna like break him apart and dismantle him, it's gonna be a little bit harder. But overall, I'd still say the Unknown isn't very hard. It's just a great enemy with just a lot going on and a lot of attention to detail, which is the kind of stuff I love. And this is the last part of the act right here. You basically just take care of these transport ships enough to where you can go up to that coil there and initiate the final mashing QuickTime event thing. So overall, Act 3 is really awesome. I think this game honestly just progressively gets better as it goes. Like Act 1 is good, then Act 2 has better parts, and then Act 3 is when it really gets awesome. Like basically once you get inside the crayon, this whole act is great. And then Act 4 is basically just non-stop, just adrenaline, just awesome segments from beginning to end. Then Act 5 is 1 really good level and 2 really hard, great boss fights. So the whole game is amazing, but the end of Act 3 is when it really just gets its shit like on another level. I especially like Act 4 because it has, I think, every enemy type in the whole game. So you get to see every enemy type in a pretty short amount of time, a lot of hard fights, a variety of environments, a couple bosses. You get to see it all. And a couple of the recurring bosses and recurring enemies that you don't usually see are put to good use. Like they're used in a different way, in a different kind of environment, not really in a way you'd expect. Like the Argus shows up in the next act, and it's totally different than the first time you fight it. So, and different than the second time you fight it. So even though it's a repeat boss, it's like it's new. Again, reusing assets isn't always bad. It can be a good thing, and I think this game does it really well. But that basically wraps up Act 3. So I'll see you guys next time in Act 4.